habits might not be too hard, but what about those habitual behaviors that you dislike? These are the habits that are hard to change. A habit is an activity that is acquired, done frequently, done automatically, and difficult to stop. Most people think of behaviors when they think of habits, but thoughts can also become habits. Sometimes our habitual thinking can keep habitual behaviors going and make them hard to change. We'll be discussing thinking habits quite a bit here. Habits can be good or bad. Good habits help us get through our daily lives. When we drive, we use a number of habits, behaviors that are acquired and done automatically. Stopping at red lights, slowing down when going through a school zone, buckling seat belts, etc. These are all good habits that protect us when we drive. Of course, we can also develop some pretty bad habits, ones that can be harmful to us and to other people. Speeding through red lights in school zones and driving without a seat belt are some examples of bad habits. In general, habit is recurrent, often unconscious pattern of behavior that is acquired through frequent repetition, an established disposition of the mind or character. We tend to think of habits as things we do and we categorize them as good or bad. Brushing our teeth every morning is a good habit, but smoking is a bad one. Now, in truth, a habit is a complicated set of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that we repeat often enough that it becomes ingrained in our brains at a level where conscious thoughts, choices are no longer really necessary. All of our habits began as thoughts. Even if it was a thought like, oh, wouldn't I look cool smoking a cigarette? Now, when you first started, that thought might have supported your commitment to fitting in with your peers or feeling mature. But now over the time, your commitments may have shifted and this smoking habit no longer supports you. It can help to think in terms of habits that support or don't support your highest goals for yourself when you are thinking of changing a long-held behavior that has become a habit. Instead of changing a habit, create a new one. If you were to look at an EEG of your brain while you are brushing your teeth, you would see a line of neurons lighting up in a particular pattern. Every time you brush your teeth, or even imagine of brushing your teeth, that same line of neurons lights up. The same thing happens when your habitual thoughts are going on in your mind. When you think, I'm too tired to get out of bed and exercise today, if that is something that you often think when you imagine getting up to exercise, then that thought is habitual and you would be able to see the neuron path of the thought in your brain with an EEG. So changing habits requires rewiring the brain, retraining the pathway of the neurons to line up with something new. It can help you if you think in terms of starting a new pathway rather than trying to change an old one. Instituting a new habit can take as little as 30 days of inconsistent or consistent repetitive behavior. Now, whereas breaking an old habit, especially if there are addictive or chemical components involved, can take much longer. And that is where the inconsistency comes in. So don't keep it inconsistent, but think of it as a consistently repetitive behavior. It could take 30 or more days, but you must never give up. Start small. Most people want to get to the end results so quickly that they skip steps or places unrealistic expectations on themselves. Then what the results would be? The results don't happen, and instead they walk away defeated, and the volume of their inner critic's voice gets really loud. Now just think about your unsuccessful New Year's resolutions. I'm sure you might be having some. Now, for example, if you set a New Year's resolution to get healthy, which included things such as eating right, exercising regularly, and quitting cigarettes or alcohol, you might have gone full speed ahead for a few weeks and then something happened and you skipped a day of exercise. That led to a lot of negative self-talk about how you blew it and it proved that you'll never get healthy. So you gave up on it all and ordered a pizza and drank a beer. Now, trying to change too many things at once is a recipe for failure because it's unrealistic that we can change a habit we've had for years overnight, let alone 2 or 3 habits at the same time. Now, human beings are creatures of habit and making changes doesn't come easily. This is true not because we're bad or incapable, but because making changes that last occur at a very deep level, at the root of your thoughts and beliefs. It takes consistent new action over a period of time to reinforce a new way of thinking. Perhaps your New Year's resolution was simply to exercise regularly. You brought the cutest workout clothes, new sneakers, and joined a gym. Even though you'd been a couch potato for years, you pushed yourself that first week by running 3 miles and lifting weights that were way too heavy. And you pulled a muscle, which then forced you to recover for a week or two. Now by the time you recovered, your enthusiasm had waned and you couldn't seem to get back to the gym. Does that sound familiar? I'm sure. For some of you, it does. Now skipping steps is a recipe for failure because changes that last are built upon a solid foundation. Taking small, consistent action every day builds inner strength and the capacity to integrate the natural effects of your new behavior, which also gives you the time to integrate and get comfortable with your new way of thinking. New beliefs leads to new actions that further leads to new results. Now keeping it simple, you choose one place to start and make the action doable. You are setting yourself up to win. There is no urgency when it comes to your new habits. You are not in a race, you are on a journey, and choosing the one path of the new habit that most appeals to you is the perfect place to start. Now how to get started on a new habit? Think of the habit as something that will support your highest goals for yourself. Think in terms of creating a new habit instead of breaking an old one. Start small. Think of new habits you want to instill and begin there. Start at the level of your thought. If you want to start a habit of healthy eating, spend 30 days practicing this thought every day, that I am a healthy eater and I love choosing foods that support my vitality. And then you see the change. Spend this time before you do any action and you will find yourself with a solid foundation from which to shift your actual behavior. Trust me, all of this works.